once a month we had a potluck supper. Everybody in the community brought a dish. Sometimes it was a different dish, sometimes a lot of them brought the same thing, and I really, really enjoyed the potlucks. And then we have, after everybody eat, they'd square dance and play music, and it was just a good time. And all the people in the community enjoyed it really well.
One of the special activities that we had at Sunset Gap was monthly potluck dinners. Everyone had a specialty that they would prepare at home and bring, and we would all have great fellowship and enjoy all the delicious foods from all the different families. Something we really look forward to each month.
There were in the same counties, Cock and Sevier counties, a group of folks who moved in so that they could have their own plot of land. Part of it was to garden, and part of the gardening was marijuana. So they had what they wanted, and for years they had a culture apart from the other culture of Sunset Gap. And then they kind of melded because there were musicians and dancers who put together a potluck every month. And it was mostly vegetarian because mostly they were not meat eaters. So I was a part of that. Bob wasn't so interested in that. And we always had the potluck first and cleaned up the dishes. The music started upstairs in the big room, and there were callers among them. And so we danced and danced and danced. And that group lasted for many years. Some of them went to Walter State Community College for some education. Some of them brought to the community more education than some of the local folks had, college degrees and all. I really enjoyed this group very much, and my girls, especially Chrissy and Becky, loved to participate in that. Chrissy was a guitar player by that time and was taking guitar lessons in Knoxville every week, driving herself at 16 to Knoxville and home again. That was a big part of our life at Sunset Gap, to bring those folks into the local community so that they felt like a part of the community. Once a fire burned out a family and the dorm was empty, and so we invited them to live in the dorm while they made arrangements to repair their house. Another fire down the hill, Betty and Harold Williamson experienced a fire, and they moved into the dorm and lived there until their new house was built. So that craft house has been many things, including home for some families.
We used to have potluck suppers up here. On Friday night, the whole community come. There'd be big crowds. People would bring a dish, and the Gap would provide hot dogs. So there'd be a lot of people here. We'd have square dances, other activities. Just a good time for everybody, something to do, something good to do without getting into anything.
Once a month, the community met for potluck suppers. Sometimes we had more than 75 people.
we had, the favorite food was fried chicken and banana pudding, and afterward we would have a square dance.
Potluck dinners. Now, man, now you're talking. Now you're talking something that everybody enjoyed. And I'm telling you, of course, 4th of July was a big one. And but then we'd have one about every month. And then sometimes you'd have Boy Scout dinners that we made money sprinkled in there. But potluck, everybody, the director always said, bring enough to feed your family. So if you bring enough to feed your family, everybody, so usually somebody brought a meat, a vegetable or two, some kind of cornbread or biscuits, and a dessert. And some people would bring more than one thing. But a lot of the staples that you had at those were in the summer especially, is they'd bring sliced tomatoes, cucumbers, big old hunks of chunked up onion that was on there. They'd bring cornbread and biscuits. They'd make cream corn and regular corn. They'd have whole new potatoes with either green beans or peas cooked in it. That was really good. They'd bring different meats. They'd bring pork. Fried chicken was big. Meatloaf. Always had a bunch of deviled eggs. Slaw. The old-fashioned tater salad. People made it different ways. Some put eggs in it. Some put mustard. Some didn't. But it was all good. Sometimes they'd fry fish and bring it. That was really, really neat to have. Because a lot of people fished back then. That's another thing on Sunday school. Quick as Sunday school's over in spring, summer, Daddy'd take us to the lake and we'd fish all day. He'd come home and clean them, and Mom would fry them and make slaw and cornbread and fried taters. Oh, they'd bring fried taters to the potluck dinners. But, I mean, it was more food. It would feed an army. And people just enjoyed it. And there'd be a big crowd there, too, especially during the summer when the work camps were there. You had to bring extra because the work camps were living there and stayed in the craft house and couldn't really cook as much. But you talk about some of the best food in the world, good old-fashioned Southern food, it was. But the fellowship, the talk, sharing, people found out if somebody needed help doing something and they could go help them the next week or two. They'd always start out with a prayer, and if somebody needed special mention that was getting older, fell and broke something, they'd always mention that. But you talk about good times. I guess it's like that old saying, you feed them and they'll come. When they had those potluck dinners, people would show up.